Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so walking down the street, don't have anything in mind at all, to be honest with you. I finished my workout and decided to incorporate some more stuff into it that I hadn't done, so I'm exhausted physically from that workout, but still wanted to get out of the house, and it is hot and humid on top of it, which makes it kind of strange for me, given the fact that I've been in the house. But you know, it's one of those days where it's like, even though the heat is telling you to probably stay in the house, I brought 2 waters with me, and I just wanted the fresh air, man. It's not a whole lot of breeze out here right now, but you know, so it's a good day in California. Don't have to do too much thinking about anything really too pressing. Even though I got so much on my plate, I figured the best way to handle getting those thoughts sorted out is to do what I've been doing in regards to walking and getting out of the house and doing this. So yeah, that's what I'm at. Yesterday was a very, very rough day for my mental health, of course, as I told you guys about trying to do that playlist and just not having any success for hours and hours and hours trying to make it. But I made it. It came out fantastic. It's one of my better playlists I've made too. I guess it was because it took so long to do that it ultimately made for a very detail-oriented blend from song to song. So I think it came out great. I hadn't made a reggaeton playlist in 6 years, maybe. So this is the second one I've done, and check it. You guys can go check that out on Apple Music, BDF at Apple Music, or at BDF on Apple Music. And yeah, that's what it is, man. Just feeling really good. I don't know how far I want to walk. It is hot out here, man. The sun is beaming on my neck like crazy, but you know, I was just determined to not stay in the house today. I did not necessarily want to keep that going, knowing that I have to make moves and you know, give myself a new place. But you know, steps have been taken to kind of have a bit more of a foundation for what it is that I'm doing. Getting my therapy sessions under the way, the real ones, not this, but actually speaking with a therapist finally. That was a huge monumental, so to speak, milestone for me, because it of course allowed me to now have the right to apply for SSI, which is obviously something that I need really bad right now. So I don't know how long it's going to take for that to kick in. They said that you have had to have had the disability for about 5 months before they pay you. But for me, I've had that my whole life. So there's no question about whether or not I should be getting paid right away for my concerns. This has been a lifelong problem. And so for me, I just like, man, I could go back to work. You know, in the grand scheme of things, do I think I can work right now? Probably. I'm not going to tell people that I don't believe I can work. But I do believe I would become a great distress if I were to try to go back right now. I think I would be triggering myself, possibly. I don't want to claim this, but I do believe it's a chance I could trigger myself back into depression. Just based on the fact that I convinced myself so much that I never would have to do it again, based on AMC blooming, to which it has yet to do. But you know, I believe in what we're doing there, so it's not like I'm losing faith. It's just going to take however long it takes, and we're going to have to continue to endure that process for maybe as long as life goes on. So I'm kind of just moving on as it pertains to letting that be what kind of fuels me to what it is I believe is success, or rather fuel me to what it believes is ultimately what I should want for myself financially. This has got to be another path to that for myself. So that's what I'm hopeful to find while I continue to pour into these entries every day with my channel, and continue to do what I do with the art that I do and all the stuff I say every day that is very consistent for me. And that's what I can say I've honestly put a lot of my effort into over the last several days. It's just whatever I organically wanted to do artistically, I just did it. You know, that's what it was. One of the days that I didn't really do any channel work, I think I might have did one video on Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever day that was. I was doing art most of the day. I think I knocked out probably like 60 pieces of art. And it was funny because I hadn't done any art hardly the week before, because I was spending all my time on the channel. That was the art form that had really giving me the most happiness the week prior to. So it's like I want to just get to everything that I like to do while still managing what it is that I have to manage, which is trying to find an apartment, for which things are just not lining up for me yet, but I can do a lot more. I think I've kind of allowed myself to lick my wounds like I always do, and that's just not a good pattern for trying to beat these win this battle in regards to my living situation. That's not the way to address the problem, or try to see yourself in a situation that doesn't get worse. So for me, I've just been kind of living in a space of trying to handle what it is I can handle, manage what I can manage. I understand that no real circumstance for getting someone to give me an apartment is probably realistic until I have certain things in order. That's what I'm coming about. I can keep on calling people, keep on running my credits, spending $1 each time. I can keep on doing all of that, but at the end of the day, it comes down to, am I able to prove that what I have to say in regards to my truth is the case? And the answer is not until I had those therapy sessions scheduled and had that first therapy session out the way. It's the only way. Everything else is just my word, and that's not good enough in this world. You need paperwork for everything. So that's what I'm most proud of, is the fact that I finally gotten that step out of the way. So now, when I go forward, I can at least say I have several different scheduled therapy sessions and a licensed physician who has declared to me that he believes I've been suffering from chronic depression, anxiety, and maybe some more stuff for as long as I've lived this life of mine. That's exactly what he's saying, more or less. And I've been suffering with that my whole life, all 39 of these damn years. And so it's like, well, shoot, all right, do I get a check for that? Cool. Do I get a check for that is really where my head immediately goes after he declares those words to me. Because the reality is I've been living without help for that. And I ain't wanted to go back to work. I've needed to go back to work for a long time. I've needed a job for over a year, and I've vehemently stayed away from what it is that I needed to comfort myself in regards to that anxiety. And so isn't that the very definition? Isn't that the very definition of what it is that people who get disability are ultimately claiming? That this mentally they can't bring themselves to do things they need to do even though they need to do them. Well, I'm the walking definition of that in regards to going back to work and going to school as a child and going to do a lot of different things that I told myself I wasn't going to do because it just made me uncomfortable, and that took precedent over everything else for some strange reason. And in many years, I felt like I was just lacking in character because of it, or that I was weak, and that those who identified me as someone who didn't want to work were right. And so I hated myself even though I didn't actually feel that way. I didn't hate myself per se, but hated myself to a degree to where I didn't want to ever put myself in a position to have to face people in regards to answering the questions about why I wasn't doing certain things. So I stayed away from social events, stayed away from friends, just to keep from having to explain to them why I was such a failure. And I think I came to terms with that, and articulated that thought as it is probably not too long ago. I don't think I had ever identified that. It was like something that was the case, but not actually pinpointed as to why I'm doing. Why am I staying away from people that I love? And it's not because I'm tired of them. Why am I staying away from people that love me? And it's not because we've had some type of falling out. I'm staying out of their lives for no other reason than I'm just too afraid to not. Just too afraid to not. And that's what it really came down to. I was too afraid to not get away because I didn't want to have conversations that would explain to them why I had nothing to say about anything having to do with myself. Why am I not going this place? Why am I not going to school? Why don't I have a girlfriend? Why? All these different questions that I never wanted to answer, because the answer was because I'd rather stay home than face the anxieties of my head. And so as I live this way to understand this truth, I come to kind of let it be, but still haven't quite addressed it as a psychological need. Like, yo, this person is ill. They're going to need to get the help necessary to assure that when they find themselves having to answer these questions, there's some legitimate science behind it rather than just what they believe they've been struggling with. And so that was the biggest part of the problem. I never was able to tell people I have this, or this, or I am certain there's something wrong with me, because it was never a question if something was wrong with me. It was my choice, though, in my mind, just like everybody had told me over the time, rather than to look at it as something that I didn't have any control over and needed help for. So as I look at the situation now, it's like, well, when you trek back into your life and you realize, oh man, I had this situation take place and I handled it wrong because I didn't want to tell people that I was dealing with something that I could not do anything to bring myself to do right in regards to. No matter how much it's necessary that I call my friends to keep them friendships going, I was way too anxious, way too dark in my own skull in regards to how I viewed myself physically and not wanting to go out the house because I looked like I wanted to look, and all kind of weird stuff that had to do with esteem taking precedence over other things that needed to be focused on. And so for me, it's like, now I've grown older to understand certain things in regards to myself, that I am a consistent person when I want to be, that I can build, that I can put myself in a position to be pleased with my efforts, that I can be an artist, various different things that I developed myself into trying to become, that I just didn't know any proof of at the time. I just hated myself for nothing back then. And now, at this point, I don't live that way. I don't live in any way that would otherwise make me believe that I'm not willing to put in the work. Because I put in the work every day on everything that I do. Work is put in. So at this point, it's like, if I can't convince myself to go out to do things that I don't want to do, then that's not a reflection of me not being willing to put in work. That's a reflection of me not having control over my own damn thoughts and actions as it pertains to choosing what is going to provide me a foundation of happiness over what else ultimately feels a certain way. And so it's like, look, I don't need help for that. But it took this long for me to realize that. Because I was never really aware of who I was and what it was I was willing to do. I was listening to other people misdiagnose me for what it is that they saw in my behavior based on people that they had seen that had never, ever identified as me, doing the things that they did, and that ultimately drove them to do things that I ultimately am doing. My mother used to tell me certain things like, don't be a sorry man. Go to work. Do the things you need to do to make sure you have what you need. And if it's those things that I can't seem to bring myself to do, then am I sorry? Well, I may be apologizing for it, but that don't necessarily mean the type of sorry she's talking about. She was talking about being sorry in the sense that you didn't want to do nothing for yourself. That you didn't love yourself enough to even try. They're like, nah, this ain't what's going on. I'm struggling with that aspect of myself. I'm having these fights and they don't make any sense. I'm having these battles and I'm not winning. I know my wisdom is telling me I got to do things differently, but I want to do things the way I've been doing. I want to do them the way that works for my feelings, because that's what's been ruptured in my past. Not my safety. My mom has always kept me safe. Not my household structure. My mom has always made sure I had that. But it was that of my mental health as it pertains to my feelings, emotions, and what's coming at me, and my defensive mechanisms, and how I'm ultimately wired to defend myself. Those were the things that I was struggling with when it was time to convince myself to do this. Let's go here. This is what needs to be done. Let's walk down the street. That part of my brain, for whatever reason, convinced me to stay in place more so than anything else. More than my strength to believe in myself, more than my ability to garner the help of others to get things done, more than the wisdom that I had that had been embedded in my head over years' time, because I actually am a personality that values wisdom, just generally understanding that it helps me in conversation to be able to help others when I listen to things that ultimately genuinely work. And so it's not like I'm lacking in wisdom to what to do. If anything, I'm someone who understands wisdom very much and values it, and values people who hold wisdom true. And so for me, it's like, for me to be doing things incorrectly, something is awry. Because I believe in the structure of doing things right. I'm monotonous. I eat the same thing every day. I do the same routine every day. So why is it that I couldn't convince myself to do things that would align with that so that I could have certain things in order? The answer was some emotional stuff I had no control over, needed help for, and wasn't getting help for, and nobody around me was really aware of what it is that was needed for me, or didn't, wasn't their business to do so. So I gotta get help for myself. And it's taken a long time to be able to be strong enough to do it. Strong enough to just start the process of looking at every single thing that needed to be done and doing it differently. And so that's where I'm at now. It's like, do things differently. Don't stay in the house. Don't be all depressed and all that stuff. Get out of the house and put yourself in a position to smell some fresh air, to get some fresh ideas, to pick up the phone and communicate to others so that you can provide more content to your channel, while receiving the shade, and a positive shade, meaning the not sunlight that I'm feeling right now, that ultimately comes when you're not staying in a cooped up, humid apartment that you ultimately being evicted from. And so that's really what it is. You know what I mean? Moving myself into a position of a new mindset so that I can move myself into a position of a new apartment without continuing to struggle with some of these same troubles, without having the same issues, without continuing to struggle with getting the help for it. So that's what it is, man. No more struggles getting help. The help is in place. My next therapy session is on the 3rd of August, followed by the 10th of August. I don't know how I'm gonna get there. If I'm living somewhere else, I don't care. I'll get up at 5 in the morning if I have to. I will be there. That's what it really comes down to, because that's the most important thing in my life right now. It's not only establishing that I can get help for myself, but also assuring that, once again, I pride myself on not allowing this to ever happen again. And this is like, what, the 3rd or 4th time I've allowed this to happen? And I promise myself that the same thing every time and always let it happen again. It gets to a point where it's like, you're not letting yourself down, man. You just haven't gotten help for what it is that you are not in control of. You haven't gotten certain things sorted out so that you can choose the right thing. So you can put yourself in a position to have what it is that ultimately you feel you are lacking, is making it so that you're making the choices that ain't no good for you. And when you get to a point where you realize you've done those things, all right, when you realize you've done those things and you still find yourself relapsing into circumstances that don't make much sense, when you've already built enough in yourself to know what you're capable of, you already know you can put in the work because you already put it in, but you're still choosing the wrong way. Well, my friend, that comes into a point where you realize it's time to take what it is that you've been working on, and start anew, and understand it's not going to be as hard to start back and get back on track, because you've put yourself in a position to ultimately have those habits in place from the work you've already put in. So now falling doesn't mean the same things anymore. You know what I mean? Being down before ever starting is not the same as being on a continued effort mission and stumbling. You know what I mean? Because when you get yourself up while you've been running, you're going to realize that you have 10 times more strength because you've been working, rather than someone who has yet to take that first step, first getting up. But when you consider that you've only had to get up once to start the process, what it can mean to you when you fall after doing that work and having that routine is that you feel as if you can't get up, no different than as if you've never gotten started. But what you got to understand is the work that you've put in, that work, it now will put you in a position to not feel the same way about getting started anymore. And now that you're going to get up that second time, you're going to understand how much strength you have getting up than you did that first time, and it ain't the same experience. It's not the same thing because you have those habits worked into your equation. And so that's what I've come to understand. That's what I was trying to explain to a friend of mine very recently. It's like, you were in a space where you weren't happy with yourself. You weren't pleased with who you used to be, so you started to do things differently. And something happened and you fell off the wagon, for whatever your wagon is. But that you were already on that wagon means that you know a wagon is there, and now you got to get yourself back on it. And so that's what it is. It's like, we're not oblivious to the things that work. We just got to keep working on making ourselves consistent in that work. And when you get to a point where you realize that you're capable, that consistency comes. And you stumble and you get back up quicker. Then you stumble, you expect to stumble. You just get right back up, and it's not even a stumble anymore. It's like a little skip, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And eventually you're not falling at all because your strength is there, your faith is there, your understanding is there, and most importantly, you know that you've already done the work, so it ain't nothing to do anymore but continue to benefit from the work already put in and can strengthen that from there. So that's what I'm telling everybody. It's the same thing that I heard Gabe Vincent say on the video content that I watched just a minute ago with JJ Redick. It's like, start yourself a routine. It doesn't matter what it is necessarily. If it's a lot of parts to it, it could be 2 or 3 different moving parts to it. But at the end of the day, you just want to start a routine, fix your bed up, just do a little stretching, whatever it is, and see yourself begin that routine. And once that routine is in your world, then you will be able to apply the start of new routines and the application to understand that you could fall there but still get up there. You could fall in the next type of scenario but still have the strength to get up and not perceive that first fall as the same thing as never having gotten up before. And so you start to understand how to start new routines, and ultimately you'll be better at so many different things, not only what it is that you're working on, because you will know how to build that way. So that's what I'm saying, everybody, man. Just keep on building. That's what I find myself thinking, and I can't seem to bring myself to do this, and this. Yeah, but you got a routine going on that you've been doing for 5 years, and you can do that, so get to it. You got your art, do that. You got your music, do that. You got other things you got to work on, do those. But at the end of the day, you have those in place because you started somewhere, and that you started this means you can start anything else you need to start. Day 1 is always hard. Day 2, you have to be reminded it's not day 1. And then from there, you just got to get through the hell week of every situation you're in. Whatever you're training, it's going to be a hell week. After that, your muscle should be kicking in. After that, your second wind should be kicking in. After that, your know-how should now be a part of what it is you're doing. It's not as new anymore. Now you're just working up a lather. Now you're going to get going. And that's what it is. Anything. I found myself working on my lower chest. You know, because I told you I had the man boobs all my life. So it was like there were certain aspects of my body that I didn't want to start the process of strengthening because it hurt too much. I do all this other stuff, get a six-pack, legs strong. But the lower chest, I don't want to touch that. I barely do anything with that because I've been weak there all my life. But it's got to a point where it's like, yo, I want stronger chest. So what am I do? Continue to sit here and work on everything else but that? No, I got to work on that. And I got to be at peace with myself knowing that everything else I've been working on, I'll be able to do 1,000,000 reps. But that particular thing, I'm moving like a child. Because the strength that I've allowed myself to never put on is that of someone who didn't have it at all. I'm barely moving as it pertains to isolating those specific spots that have not been worked on. You know what I mean? That's where my mind is. And make sure they ain't turning here. So that's really what I'm here to say to people, man. Just start that process and understand that that's an applicable thing that you can apply to other things, man. You can get where you want to go so long as you know that you're capable of moving. And it takes the first step and then allowing yourself to believe that that first step is just that. It'll never be new like this or anxious if that's who you are. It'll never be like that again because you have done it. And so that's what starting something is about. That's what it's really about. Not necessarily getting it right the first time, but just doing it. Getting whatever you can out of it. And then you try it again if you didn't get it right the first time. But that you tried, it's the whole point. That's what's going to give you the confidence and the self-respect, self-worth, whatever it is that may be lacking. It's that process of getting started. I'm doing this. Just like I felt right now, getting out the house. I don't feel like getting out the house, really. I didn't. I was exhausted from my exercise. I just got to eating a meal. I did exercise last night. Right before I went to bed, I did a whole lot. So it's like I've been pushing myself physically with the intention of trying to be as strong as I need to be to move my things by myself if it comes to that. That's exactly what the science has been over the last 8-9 days. And I spent a lot of time in the house. But I've been moving. Your boy's been moving, man. Lifting on the chest, like I said, lifting on the legs, squats, everything. Ab work, push-ups, everything. I've been doing it all. And so, you know, I think that over the last 10 days, I've probably put myself in the best shape I've been in about 10 months. And it's because I've been intent on reacting to these struggles of being evicted in ways that I didn't allow myself to the first month. You know, it was one of those things where it was like, I gotta tell y'all, I was trying to working out stressed into my equation. Because a lot of times when you stress, you don't feel like doing nothing. You don't feel like eating. You don't feel like, you don't really feel like doing anything. And for me, I got a weed habit, so I can allow myself to just disappear mentally when I'm stressed out. But the key is to understand what is ahead of me, regardless if I'm semi in denial about it or not, to know that physically, I'm gonna need to be in my best shape for whatever's ahead. Whatever it is, I need to be in my best shape. And so when I was struggling working out, I started feeling the effects of that. And I told you guys, I started feeling a little tired, not feeling like myself, feeling like my age, which if you hear me talk enough, you know that I don't like feeling like my age at all. No morning do I want to feel 39. And I put in a lot of work to ensure that I don't. And it's like, when this little stressful era hit about 2 months ago, I was still working out. I was still doing my routine, but it was hard to push like I'm pushing right now. I had to train myself to work out through stress, to be in the space that I'm in and still be productive in the things that I need to do to be physically all right. And so that's what I think I've been able to, that's really been a overcoming for me. I remember thinking like I want to do a few chest presses or whatever about 4 weeks ago, and just felt like the will to do it wouldn't match my fire. What I wanted to do for myself, it was like I didn't have the energy to follow through. And that's been a big thing for me these last 5 days as well. Just been kind of reoccurring, kind of been coming back to me in various different forms. Different content will mention this, but following through what you start. It was what I was trying to do yesterday with that playlist. It took like 14, 15 hours. To start something, and regardless of what is trying to keep you from doing it or your own intentions upon being lazy, completing what it is that you started. Because to be honest with you, I didn't grow up forcing myself to do that. I'm following through with something I did when I wanted to. If it wasn't too inconvenient, I ain't gonna sit there and suffer. That's how I move, but you don't get stronger doing that too. You'll never get stronger. So what I ended up finding myself was continuing to be weak. Anytime the smallest little thing come around, suddenly it's like, oh, I can't handle it. Oh, I'm not myself. I'm not. And it's like, man, these ain't even real stresses, but you do need to keep up your work. You do need to keep up your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and all of that, so that you can be well with whatever stresses come your way. And you're dealing with all this that you're dealing with, and suddenly 10 times more difficult things may hit. And how you survive that? How you survive that, I would imagine, is staying as healthy as you can prior to. Making sure you're doing the right things with the time that you're stressed in this level, so that when that next level hits, you'll be that much more equipped to be able to withstand whatever comes. And so that's what it's about, man. I understand that there are things that I should be able to do simply that would ultimately make it so that I don't have financial struggles. Some of the emotional stuff that I've dealt with has been from doing things alone. All of that is fine to me in regards to, I can look at that and be okay with that. I didn't do my best in some of my areas that I would love to try again in the future. And I'm not going to let mental health be the only reason why those things didn't get done correctly. It's just not the truth. I deal with my mental health every day, and some days are better than others. But I don't want what is represented in my name to be that of someone who only adhered to his own mental health no matter what. That's not how I want to move. It's not how I believe I want to be remembered. So that's really what it comes down to, getting help at 39, so that 49, 59, 69, I'm not getting worse. It's a God's honest truth. It's the same with my health. I look at a lot of people my age. What are you going to do now? That's the question I ask you. At 39, you're almost 40. Where are you at now? Do you believe your body needs to be worked on to get better? Or do you believe you can continue to do the things that you did when you were 20? And where does your body go from here? These are things we have to really consider if you're my age, because it's like a lot of people my age, they have families, they settle down, they have jobs that keep them, and they've been on a long hustle mission for like 20 years now. They're tired. But you got to ask yourself, if you want to live, quality of life is most important to me. And if you want to be healthy, there's certain things that you're going to have to condition yourself to want. It can't be a sacrifice, because you're not going to always choose a sacrifice, but you're definitely going to condition yourself properly. Certain eating habits, we talk about it all the time, so I don't want to spill into all the bad food stuff. But at the end of the day, even now, I tell you, even now, I find myself craving unhealthy food. Right now, I find myself looking at IG and all kinds of stuff, but I don't want to eat that stuff because I know once I do eat it, it tumbles me into a direction where my workouts are harder. The likelihood that I'm falling victim to not being able to feel strong enough to convince myself to work out during stress. Like, those things have to do, as I said, with leading up to. What were you doing leading up to? And so for me, it's like, yo, I don't want to adhere to those desires. That's what I call it. Desire to eat bad food. I don't want to. I woke up this morning, you know what I had a craving for? Something I can't even digest anymore. Something with mayonnaise. Mayonnaise has eggs to it. My body don't even like that stuff no more, but I have a taste bud for it this morning. Like, these are the type of things. You know, I like garlic, but I can't have garlic anymore. My body completely rejects garlic in a very, very serious way. And so it's like, certain things are just, these decisions are being made for me, but others I could betray and just deal with the consequences just for my taste bud. And I think that's what we ultimately do anyway. A lot of people do that, whether they're allergic to stuff or not. They eat stuff they have no business eating and suffer the ills of it later on. It's just like, if we can keep from doing that and stop looking at being healthy as something that needs to be just a sacrifice for yourself, and you start feeling how easy it is to get through your day-to-day when you're healthier. How easier it is to deal with stress and choose things that help you manage those stresses. It comes with actually being in shape, believe it or not. Shave off the fat. The fat carries more fat, and that's another thing. And so I started working on my lower chest, as I said, about maybe 4 months ago, when I really first pushed out that first real, I'm gonna finally start the process. And what I found was that my chest started, like my left chest, since it had never been worked in that way, it didn't take much work for it to start to change. It started to basically deflate, right? But because I didn't get back to it, I started working on other aspects of my workouts, but didn't work on that particular weak area. The fat came back into that area. Even now, as I'm in shape, you eat a couple bad foods, fat is going to attach itself to fat. So whatever is not being worked off, it's just going to continue to get more fat the more you eat the bad and the more you sit and don't do or what have you. So it's like, even for those of us who are active, we got to work on the stuff that's weak, especially areas that harbor fat, so that when we do take on any fat, it doesn't attach itself to the areas that we are ultimately trying to work off the most. And these are things I've understood now in just my little journey of trying to get in shape. And I'm telling people that it don't take but 2 or 3 meals for me to lose all definition in my stomach. You know what I mean? It don't take but 3 meals eating poorly for me to start having unhealthy effects. I don't know if everybody's body's different. Some people are like Russell Westbrook and Scoot Henderson, so they ain't gonna have those problems. But for those of us who are like me, we really got to be mindful of what we're eating, and we really got to be mindful of the fact that it don't take nothing for fat to be put back on your body. And there's a direct correlation with how we handle stress to that fat, in my humble opinion. Direct correlation. Because I was way more susceptible to laying down in depression as a child when I didn't have much muscle on my body. You know what I mean? When I didn't have much muscle on my body at all, feeling down was easy. Because your body was going to follow. If your mind's down, your body's definitely following, because you don't move much anyway. And so these things I can correlate based on having lived 2 different ways, 2 different extremes at this point. I remember when I was like 12 or 13 years old, climb steps and being out of breath. You know what I mean? The elevator's broken now. I got to climb up 6 flights of stairs, and I can barely get up there without sweat drooling down my head and all. Like this little walk that I just did right now, I would be drenched at any given point before I moved to Inglewood. Before I started really working out, oh my God, I'd be drenched right now. Something terrible. You know, just not living healthy and still working out. But I wasn't eating healthy. Still working out, but I wasn't thinking consistent workout. You know, let me get that routine going. Let me stretch, various different things that really help. Nah, it was just, let's just work out with the buddies, and then we were consistent because they were consistent. Basically, it wasn't really my show. And so I had to start my own thing. Start doing my own home workouts. and all these different things that have put me in a position to be healthier ultimately as a human being now. And I had to start that stuff at 20, 21, 22. After living my whole childhood just unhealthy like crazy. Just 5 tacos from Taco Bell today. Let's go get 2 breakfast sandwiches from McDonald's, and I need extra hash brown. Like this type of stuff. Let me go get a McFlurry from McDonald's, 2 filet of fishes, large fry, soda. Like all that stuff that people eat today, normally to me, as I think about it, I'm like, yo, I don't want none of that. I may still have a taste bud for that stuff. That stuff, they find a way to make it so that we can digest it without the sugar sitting on us, without all that stuff, the grease sitting on us. If they can find a way to make everything that's tasty, palatable, and healthy, then cool. My taste buds will still allow me to eat a lot of that stuff. But my desire to feel healthy, how I'm feeling walking down this dang street, man, I wouldn't give that up to eat a bad meal, man. I wouldn't give that up to eat a good meal that tastes good but is bad for me. I would not. This is a much better quality of living for me. Even though I'm going through some of the most stressful stuff possible, I'm healthier going through it. You understand? That's what it really comes down to. It's not as hard to tell myself to get up and get out the house and walk because I'm used to working out. Instead, it's like, if I got to get out the house, let me roll over. This is tough. There's so much thinking going on. I ain't doing none of that when I'm doing my workouts on a regular basis, building myself the way that I am. It's just like, I'm depressed. I feel whatever I feel, and let me get my butt out the house, and it's easy to do. Boom, pop, up, now let's go. And that's how I want everybody to feel who watches me. It's like, some of us genetically may not be able to do it, you know what I mean? May not be able to get in that type of shape. But you can always improve on your diet. Not everybody be able to move this, that, and the third, but I think a lot of us can make ourselves healthier by way of what we eat. Even if it's more protein, even if you need something that I don't need. Point is, you got to find what you need for your body and make sure you have it so you feel as good as possible. And I'll tell you, physically, I feel as good as I've ever felt because I'm eating more fruit than I've ever eaten. 2 apples a day, 2 bananas a day. And that's not what I was doing, but just by way of how I'm eating oatmeal every day and every night, which is another thing, putting on a lot of weight based on the oats that I'm eating. It's like, you get to a point where you realize that amount of fruit on a daily basis, depending on whether or not you're okay sugar-wise, is really good for you. I feel, because for me, I would eat maybe a half of apple a day, half apple a day, 1 banana a day. But as of late, I've been throwing an entire apple in every bowl. Every bowl, I cut up an entire apple and an entire banana to make my oatmeal taste as good as it's going to taste. And so for me, it's like, I started that about 3 weeks ago. I could tell you that this has been 3 of the more healthier physically weeks I've had. Just coupling that with the consistent exercise that I've been doing. That's what it's about, man. Eating right, exercising, drinking water, and putting myself in a position to be able to deal with these impossible damn stresses by myself. And I do it physically, though. Physically, to be able to handle it. Mentally, emotionally, I don't know. It's moment to moment. But physically, man, I'm trying to get there. That's really what it's about. The type of shape I want to be into, and sprint all the way home from here. And that's like 30 blocks. Like, this is the shape I want to be in. I'm 40 years old next year. I ain't going to be in that type of shape. But the point is, that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build ourselves up to levels that allow us to feel good as we get older. I don't want to feel no different 20 years from now than I do right now. No different. The way I see it is, I felt terrible through the first 20 years of my life. So I want to feel great for the rest of it. I kid you not. So this is how I feel, man. And just growing up watching people who took care of themselves as they got older. One guy that really stands out for me, that was an inspiration to me, was LL Cool J. And watching him in his late 30s training like an athlete, it's like, yo, I don't know if I can build my way there, but I started appreciating that trait early enough in life to where now I can get to where I want to be from here, I believe. I can get to where I want to be from here based on having a respect for consistent training now. And I hope to be even better at that later on. So that's what it's all about, man. We're building. Not only the channel, not only our mental health circumstances, not everything is going to come overnight. In fact, most things are not, but we're building. We're building. So I just want to encourage everybody to keep building. Whatever you're working on is worthy doing it. It's worthy. And look, sometimes them dark days last a long time for a lot of us, man. Not everybody makes it. Not everybody makes it. Sometimes the long days, they last. But what I can tell you is, for me, what I'm doing, I'm having some dark days, and I'm allowing what it is that I do to continue to be consistent in my intentions. I'm not saying because I'm tired of what I'm going through that I'm not going to do the things that I need to keep consistent with the stuff I've been building the whole time. Workout stay, channel stays, art playlists, all that remains. There's not going to be any changes, regardless, well, not for the worse in regards to my effort. And that's not contingent on whether or not I'm doing well. That's what I'm telling you. It ain't got nothing to do with whether I feel good. That ain't got nothing to do with where the money's at. It don't have nothing to do with nothing. It has to do with me in a consistent rhythm with doing something monotonous that ultimately I believe can build over time. And all the great content creators, all the great musicians, everybody did it over and over and over and over again. All the great athletes over and over and over again. And they allowed themselves to find solace during the difficulties in whatever it is they were doing a lot of the times, especially if they were great at it. It was what they chose for themselves to help deal with their problems. And so that's how I look at what I'm doing here as well. It ain't no different. I'm going to remain doing this regardless if I'm doing well or not. You know what I mean? That's really what it's about. And because of it, I'm going to be in a much better position in regards to having works backed up behind me. You know what I mean? I'm going to have plenty for you to see based on what it is that I refuse to stop doing. And so that's what I'm telling everybody else. Don't quit what you're doing. Keep going what it is that you got to do. Because at the end of the day, you're building, and what you're trying to build is ultimately something that you're weighing against yourself, not necessarily everybody else, if you're going to do it right. It don't have to end. You know, another thing that's really difficult to try to wrap your mind around when you're out of shape is the never-ending process of having to continue to work out every day or every other, or whatever your routine is for the rest of your life, to keep looking the way you want to look or to get better. Because as soon as you stop working out, it's understood that you're going to have to do more, you know what I mean, to get yourself back on track. It's like we say about anything else. You eat poorly, and then you're going to have to work it off in a different way. Your workout's going to be affected by that. So I think that's what I'm trying to say to everybody, that's always hard when you're first getting started. That's always difficult when you are just really in a space where, you know, you've done it a couple times, but it ain't really worked into your equation. It's hard still. You know, you ain't really got that muscle in you. You just know the soreness of what it is you did and probably never came back to it. That's going to always make you feel like you're just getting up for the very first time each time. That's why consistency is so important. But do understand that consistency doesn't have to be measured by other people's thoughts either. If I want to consider being consistent, doing something once every 2 weeks as opposed to what they tell me, which is once every 2 days, my body will get used to that consistency. You know what I mean? It may not be consistency to what your standards are, but as long as I would be willing to come back at a certain rhythm, so to speak, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 3 days, whatever it is, then your body's going to get used to that rhythm, whatever it is. And so that's what I'm coming to understand. The wisdom that I'm holding in myself at this point is I can build forward. I ain't got to sit back and say, yo, just because I didn't come back to it right away, and it hurts this time again to have to do it, doesn't mean that the next several times that I get up, it's going to be the same thing. Just like I was saying on the way here, it's not. You're going to be able to do more because of your strength that you're going to have from doing what it is you've already started the process of doing. You ain't got to sit back and feel that way no more. It ain't going to be the first time no more. Nah. We done it now. We did it 6, 7, 8 times now, so we just getting up. Ain't shit to it now. And that's what it really comes down to in my mindset. You just got to keep pushing forward. You ain't got to really do too much thinking about the first time and how hard it was the first time, because we ain't on the first time no more. And so that's what I want to say, man. Everybody keep on working. Keep on pushing forward. Don't allow what it is that you're doing to be predicated on somebody else's thoughts or what it is that you're about or whatever. You define that. You define that, as we've said many times. People may not necessarily accept that you've made changes. Okay, cool. They don't accept your changes. That don't mean that you're not going to display the consistency that shows that the change is permanent. You're about to prove to that right now. You're going to prove that right now by getting back up, doing the hard work to keep at it. And that's with anything, whether it be a workout or stopping routines that don't benefit you or you know, getting over some misfit traits that otherwise are just in place because we don't know how to change. All that stuff. Approach the same way. First step, never ever gonna be the first step again. And because of it, you're gonna get up stronger the next time. That's it. That's the bottom line. And so I encourage everybody to keep up your routine. Add to it if you want to. Don't get frustrated with dog days, not getting the results you're looking for. Maybe some numbers have dipped in whatever you're doing. Maybe you didn't have it this week, and that's another thing. Some weeks working out, it may be a whole week you feel like you don't have any athleticism, any strength in your body. Maybe there's been some subtle change in your diet that you ain't even thinking about that's throwing you off a little bit. But it's the work that you're going to put in through that will get you through that. That's basically what it is. And rest is fine, so long as you're committed to getting back up. Rest is great. You know what I mean? You need rest so you can get the strength back to do what it is you're doing. So, you know, especially when you're pushing like I've been pushing these last couple 7-8 days. 2 of them days I needed to do less, and that was just what it was. So one of them days I needed to be in bed almost the whole day to recover from a muscle in my back shoulder that it finally started developing properly. But the problem, there's no problem, but what it really came down to was once the night hit and I felt that shoulder was 100%, I did work that night. I maybe stayed in bed all day, but as soon as I felt good enough to get up, I got up and worked. And that's not something I picked up in the first week of working out. That had to be worked into the routine of years and years and years. So don't be discouraged if you don't feel that right away in the first year of whatever it is you're trying to do. That's later down the road when you already had these routines in place, or this type of mentality already stuck to other things that you're doing. So that's why I tell people, don't be discouraged by people saying, yo, I can do this. Yeah, but you're on a different pace. And because you're on a different pace, maybe you're not able to do that. But if you keep moving from here the way you're supposed to, you're going to find that you can do this, and this. As opposed to what it is that they're showing you that they can do there. You're going to be able to do more because you'll start where you're starting, and then you'll be on your own journey as to which you're going to incorporate stuff that maybe they didn't even incorporate. What you can't see with certain people is that they are on day 738 of whatever they're doing. It's like working out with somebody for the very first time. And you see a guy in the gym and he's doing laps, running around for like 2 hours. Well, what you don't see is that he's been doing that type of run for like probably 6 years. And so at that point, it's like his body's used to that. Now, if you try to do what he did, you're gonna maybe get hurt depending on whether or not your body can handle that. You know what I mean? Trying to keep up with him is useless. Now, if he were to start on the same day you started, then you would see that you're in the same place that he's in. If you put in the same work he's in, maybe you find yourself in a better place than he was if you put in the same amount of time, the same effort, the same amount, distance or whatever it is that you're measuring. But at the end of the day, if you're going to start your day one on his day 786, don't expect that your body's going to be able to do what he can do. Don't expect that your mind is going to be able to have the different routine for whatever it is you're doing in mind. It's going to be second nature to him. It's not going to be that way. But don't be confused. He's on day 800, whatever the hell it is, and you're on day one. On day 800 something. For you, you're going to look just as good as that person did on day 800, whatever for them. And so that's what I encourage people to understand. A lot of times we find ourselves measuring from the wrong spot, trying to keep up with somebody who's been training for 10 years. No, man, it's day one for you. It's day one for you. And that's what I had to tell myself in regards to that lower chest thing that I was telling y'all about. It's like, I can only do like 6. I can only do like 6. But I'm going to work my way up to 6,000. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that I really want to work up that far, but the point is, if I build every day and let the muscle put on just like I did everything else, that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to build. It's going to do what it's supposed to do so that I can reach the levels I need to reach. What you don't see is the sleep that person put in to let the muscles grow in. What you didn't see is them nights where they weren't able to hardly sleep because the muscle pain was so bad in between them 800 something days when you're on day one. You're going to go through that, and then you're going to get to a point where you're strong enough to do what it is that they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to force that type of progress and you're going to injure yourself. And see, that's the part that that I had to learn working out. Getting to a point where I was doing my fitness thing on my own. It's like, yo, And when I see somebody who has six-pack, all types of dents all in their body, I know how difficult it was for them if they're genetically wired like me. And I know much pain they put in to get those muscles. Because I know how hard it is for me to just get the little muscle I got on my body. And so it's like, at some point in time, you just got to accept where you at and keep on working, regardless of what everybody else is talking about. Accept where you are and keep working. Because at the end of the day, this is what, day 400 something? And we're on a path that doesn't end. You know what I mean? That's what we said to ourselves about working out. It don't end. We got to just keep doing it, even though it's hard to psych yourself into that. Once you get into the rhythm of working out, you're going to crave it. Your muscles aren't going to hurt as much. You're going to want to put on more weight because it gets easier to do what it is you've been doing. But you got to get through that first 6 pushes so you can put in that muscle, get in that sleep rest that puts on that muscle so that you can push out 8 or 12 or 16 or 30 or 6,000, wherever you're headed. Let yourself work that progress. And that is an application that goes to all different things, not just your muscles, but your mind, your workspaces, various different things that you're building in craft, all different things. If you measure yourself against somebody else who's been training, you're most definitely not going to get the results that they are unless you are uber talented at what you're doing. As to which, if you put in the work, you'll be the greatest of all time. So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. You put in that work, love that journey, and don't get discouraged by what is otherwise fat, continuing to build on areas that need to just be worked a little harder. And that, my friends, is also applicable to other things. So, yeah, man, keep working. Keep working, that's what I have to say. Feels good to be outside. I'm glad I came out here. I'm glad I made this video. I don't know when this thing is going to cut off, but I'm probably not going to be home for another 30 minutes or so. I got about a 30-minute walk. And so I feel good, man. I don't have everything that I need. I'm not going to sit up here and act like everything is in place. There's a lot of bad going on in my world right now. I need a lot. But I'm doing a lot to react to that. I'm doing a lot to say, it's not just me sitting up with depression dealing with these problems. I'm addressing them and I'm being consistent in what it is and I'm trying to build. And I think that dude almost got hit by a dump truck right in front of me because he wanted to start across the street on a bike right in front of that thing. But he got over. He was able to make it. But you know, ultimately getting distracted there is just part of living in Los Angeles. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, I'm just telling everybody, don't quit. Don't be discouraged by slow progress or dark days, dog days, or however you view it. Because I'm going through that and I'm still doing what I got to do. And I know it's going to 2, 3, 4 months down the road, I'm going to have that much more built and that much more strength to work through stress, that I'll be able to deal with more stress and more of what comes my way in whatever forms it may, with the confidence built from what it is I'm saying here and doing here. So that's what I want to see people do. You build your confidence. Build your confidence by doing the things necessary to be proud of yourself. How do you do that? By doing the more difficult thing. Whatever's more difficult. You're likely going to be more proud of yourself for doing the thing that's harder. In some cases, especially if you're not foregoing what is wise to do while doing so. You want to work smart, not just hard. And so that's what I'm saying, everybody, man. Keep your focus. Build what you're building. Not based on what everybody else is talking about, but what it is that you have to build. What it is that you're working on. What it is that what comes naturally to you is about. Maybe somebody else is trying to build a skyscraper. Maybe that's not your plan. Maybe you just want to build something else. Maybe you want to build something a lot less strenuous for yourself. Maybe you just want to kind of get a few things in order with your finances that ain't there yet. Something like that. At the end of the day, whatever you're building should be possible so long as you're intent on applying confidence, consistency, faith, and relentlessness. A relentless determination to complete whatever the task is. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.